This episode of TRS is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/totallyrad. Today, we're back with another board game to review. This time, we check out Nightfall.
Back for board games, and today we're talking about a deck building game from AEG and designer David Gregg called Nightfall. Now, deck building games became very popular in just in the last couple of years after Dominion came out and won the Spiel des Jahres, and it really introduced a completely new mechanic to board and card games. Basically, it allows you to start with a very small amount of cards in your deck, in your hand, and then select from a common pool of potential cards to build your personal deck up and compete against the other players' personal decks.
Crazy. Dominion was the first game to do that?
Completely introduced deck building.
That is so smart.
Yeah, and so there's been a lot of games, even from the same company. We saw Thunderstone, which kind of introduced a dungeon delving mechanic. Now Nightfall allows you to play as the leader of these dark creatures of the underworld, vampires, werewolves. You, the player, are getting your minions together and your different orders that you can give to those minions and actually attacking the other players, which is much different than a lot of these other deck building games, which are much more solitaire experiences in a group.
Yeah.
So in Nightfall, you will actually be playing your cards in your hand on the other player's turn, because not only do you get to take from your hand and place your minions in front of you and attack other players, but on their turn, there's little colored symbols in the upper left corner of their card that allow you to determine whether you can chain cards from your hand on top of the cards that they played. So there's always an interplay between players.
And it has a little cutthroat caverness where it sort of resolves in the sort of backwards order. So you can kind of, what you as a player think is going to happen as you're putting it down may not eventually be what ends up happening.
Yeah, and it's sort of a reverse mechanic to what a lot of these games are, as far as you're not trying to get victory points into your hand, you're trying to get as few wounds into your hand, so other people are inflicting wounds on you. Set it down, right, and then if I have another blue in my hand, I can chain the blue. If I don't, Dan gets a chance to chain a blue.
Got it.
And then we resolve that in reverse order. The last thing that happens is that she goes into my hand. The chain effect happens. I would draw 2 cards, and she goes into my hand. Putting her into play means putting her down as a minion. And then when my next turn comes, at the beginning of my turn, I have combat, and then I'd be like, okay, she attacks. So the first thing you do is attack with Charlotte.
Got it. Okay, I will attack Jeffrey, because he knows how to play, and his minion only has 1 point of damage.
Right. So we both get obliterated.
See, the funny thing is, if we tagged up, we could get rid of your bad smoke.
Yeah,
but he does
I'm down for that.
But he does no damage. He's
Yeah,
just
but
a
he's
blocker.
a bit of a block. Let's get rid of him. I'll tag up for that.
Yeah, that's a good play on the defense.
My chain is gonna be to destroy that. So at least
Nice.
one of those guys go away.
That.
Whoa!
Tigs!
The game just started.
All right, so resolve in reverse order. So chain, inflict 2 damage on a target minion. So I'm gonna go back at Dan, because he attacked me.
Nice.
And then Lilith, inflict 1 damage on target player, Dan.
Bad smoke, go bye-bye. Oh, cool. Now I get to inflict 1 damage on target player. Dan, why don't you pick up a wound?
My first wound.
Boom. A big ghost against Dan.
So I take 5.
You take 5.
There's nothing I can do about it. I can't play
Nothing
anything
you can do about
Nope,
it.
so that's 5 wounds.
Smoke
Bad
it.
smoke.
Wow.
And then this guy gets exiled, and these two, and this guy gets exiled.
Crazy. For the guy who had no wounds a second ago, I'm now getting...
Now I'm gonna start my chain.
So, Alton Hickman
The Hickman
comes into play.
So attack, destroy target minion. Nobody has any.
Nobody
Can't
has
do that.
any.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
That was sort of a waste, but it was fun. This guy just comes into play.
Right. Target minion.
No minions.
Minion. That's fun.
This guy comes into play.
A lot of Hickmans. A lot of Hickmans. Shocking off for Daniel.
Inflict 3 damage on target minion.
Ooh, kill a Hickman.
Yeah, I'll kill a Hickman. 2 damage on target minion.
Pick some people.
I'll do Hickman, please.
I have 2 wounds.
5, 6,
1, 2,
and 8.
1, 2, 12.
10. 10 wounds.
What did you guys think, Dan? What did you think of?
I really enjoyed
Nightfall.
it. I liked it. I really like the art on the cards, which is something that I always appreciate in
Gravitate
these games.
towards.
Yeah, because it sort of it helps immerse you in the game. It makes it more fun, buying into the fiction of what's happening rather
And
than
you-
just.
you love vampires.
I love vampires. But I also loved the competitiveness in it, because you're right, those other deck building games are very, and not just deck building games, but there's a lot of these board games are kind of like you're playing against yourself amongst other people. And I liked brings in that Munchkinly quality of like effing you, you know?
Yeah.
So you're fighting against, actually you're not fighting against anything other than each other. You are fighting against each other. And trying to better your own situation.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Magic, right, Alex? Where you have like a line of defense of minions.
Yeah. It's funny. Just hearing what Dan was saying, I did enjoy the game very much, but I think, I don't know if it hits the sort of level of what I really want is Cutthroat Caverns with deck building. Do you know what I mean? Because what I really like about Cutthroat Caverns, and where we're losing here, is that this is just about attacking the other player. Whereas I feel like with Cutthroat Caverns, it's about trying to succeed in this common goal while also trying to win.
Right.
And by doing so, you're kind of screwing the other player, but it's almost, you have to be a little bit more diplomatic in Cutthroat Caverns, because you want to sort of screw people without them feeling like you're screwing them. You know what I mean? Like, well, this is just the best for the common goal.
Well, Thunderstone is a little bit like that.
Yeah, but then there's no competitive nature
Right.
one-on-one.
Well,
That's
you're just
really solitary.
trying to beat the monster before the other guy.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
is sort of, that's okay, but, because at Cutthroat Caverns, that's what you're trying to do too. Beat the monster before the other guys.
Yeah.
Or girls. So I feel like this was a good step. This is like one notch better than a sort of Dominion or a Thunderstone in my book, because it's got that sort of competitive. Plus, there's active things to do on other people's turns.
Yeah, I love that about
That's
it.
really, really great. But if there was just a little spin on it where there was some common goal, so there was some sort of need to not just screw everybody, but that was part of it,
Yeah.
I think it would just go up to the A+ realm. This is a good, solid, like, B+ game.
Yeah, I liked
Would
it
be
too.
fun,
My big problem with it is that you start with these kind of
Throwaway cards,
Yeah,
yeah.
throwaway minions that are really expendable. In fact, their main feature is that when you use them, they get expelled from the game completely, not put in your discard pile. And I felt like the game doesn't really start until all of those guys are kind of out of the game.
Yeah.
And I felt like it's just a giant speed bump to getting to where the real game is, because once you start really doing the chains and really mixing things up, it gets really fun and really interesting, but it takes a good 20 minutes to get there.
Because like those minions also, you can chain, but only the exact same card to them. So that wasn't really how chains work. Like that one time where I was like, Hackman, the tagline, Hackman, tagline. You know what I mean? Like, it was good to be able to go bam, 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 bam. But then you also put yourself at a disadvantage because you're getting rid of all your cards, so that on your turn you don't have any cards. So there's this whole
It's a
sort
give
of
and take, which is great decision making. You guys would want to play it again?
I definitely
I'd play
would,
it again.
Yeah, I don't think it has a specific release date yet, or at least if I do, I haven't seen it. And maybe it'll be up here if Mike finds it. But
It's definitely worth,
Nightfall.
especially if you like the deck building game. It could also be a really good sort of ancillary, like a round of Dominion, a round of Nightfall, back to Dominion, to sort of break up the kind of like, we're just sitting here, nobody's really talking.
It's also a refreshing. It's also a refreshing fiction in that it's not fantasy orcs and ogres and sword and sorcery, and it's not modern crime. I mean, there certainly are horror
sci-fi.
things, and there is Lovecrafty and stuff. But this for this style of game, this seems like it's sort
cool
of a fun
milieu.
universe to be in.
Yeah. It's worth it, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, stick around for this day in rad history. But first, our sponsors, Jeffrey.
Oh, I get so excited when we're sponsored by Audible.com because it's one of my favorite things.
Like cherries.
Reading. I think more people should read. I wish I read more. One of the ways I'm able to read more is because I'm able to multitask. Having people read books to me.
Into your face ears.
Into my face ears. I think that's pretty much their logo.
It is.
Reading books into your face ears. Audible.com is a great place to get audiobooks. You can sign up and you can get multiple books. You get like, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Let me recommend one to you. You've heard me talk about before a wonderful book by Patrick Rothfuss called The Name of the Wind.
I've been reading it.
You've been
It is
reading it?
amazing,
As
yes.
have I.
As have you. We're all
through.
reading it. Well, that's
Really?
exciting
Yeah.
Wow,
because
you
as
jumped
of
me.
March 1st, the sequel is out. The Wise Man's Fear. So if you haven't read the first one, highly recommend it. I think we all do.
Yeah.
And definitely get on reading the second one. Audible.com is a great place to read audiobooks. You can go to audiblepodcast.com/TRS.
Yep.
Totally rad. Excuse me.
Nope.
Audiblepodcast.com/totally rad, and you will get a free trial. Highly recommend it. Great fantasy books.
Amazing. All right, people, stick together.
And
it's
stay
dangerous
happy.
outside.
It's dangerous.
Check us out tomorrow when we play Tagline Takedown.
So today is March 24th, and on this day in rad history, back in 1874, Harry Houdini escapes from his mother's vagina.
The greatest escape he ever performed.
The first of many escapes Harry Houdini made, escaping from his mother's womb.
That umbilical cord had
Yep,
wrapped up
wrapped
real
around
good.
like this,
It's like-
wiggling around, getting an elbow
I
up.
think she swallowed a key.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was all a trick.
Brilliant.
So Harry Houdini was born in 1874. Thank you, Nick Pollock.